Hello everyone, I am Aryan Jain and today I will be going through the basic queries in Postgres. Postgres is an open source database management system which you can use to store data for your websites. To download pgadmin, which is a tool to manage a Postgres database, log on to pgadmin.org, go to the download tab from the navbar, select your system and then select the latest version from the top of the list. Then download the exe file which will then launch the setup wizard. After that, follow the instructions on the screen to download pgadmin 4. So after you install pgadmin, this is how it looks like. When you first open it, you will have to go to servers over here and set a password for your server, which will be needed every time you want to connect to it. So you have to remember it. And the three main components of this application are the dashboard, which gives you an overview of your server, including the server status, activity, and resource utilization. Then we have the query tool, which allows you to write and execute SQL queries, view results, and manage your database objects. And the Object Explorer gives you a hierarchical view of your database, making it easy to navigate and manage your tables and other functions. So this is the Object Explorer in the left side. This is the dashboard for this server, and by clicking here we will be able to go to the query tool after we create a database. So we will begin by creating a database. So you go here, right click, create database, give it a name, click on save. Now this is no longer blurred, so you can click on it and the query tool will open. The query tool is basically a code editor, so you can write your statements and then run them. Before we start creating tables and handling data, I will go through the data types once. We have integer or int, which stores whole numbers. Then we have decimal for the decimal literals. Then we have real, and then we have serial, which is basically auto indexes the values. So you don't have to input it every time. It will automatically assign the values in increasing order. Then we have text, which is a string of unlimited length. Varchar, which is a string with limited length up to n characters, and then boolean, which is true or false. To create a table, the syntax is very simple, not like C or Java. So create table, then give the table a name. So I'm creating a table to store the username and password of the users of my portal. Then name the columns. So I want the first one to be ID, then I want username and then the password. The data type for ID will be serial, so I don't have to assign it every time, and I want it to be the primary key. So primary key means that no two entries can have the same ID. Username will be text, password will also be text. Run this. Right, this comma is not required. Query returned successfully. So if I go over here and go to schemas and then tables, I will be able to see my table. Go to view all rows and you can see the table over here and the data output. It's empty because we have not inserted anything into it yet. To insert data in this table, since we won't be inserting the ID, it will be indexed automatically. So we have to specify the columns we are inserting data into. If I will be inserting data into all the columns, I don't have to specify the column name over here. So insert into this table, and these are the columns I am inserting values in, and the values are string and then the password. Hopefully none of you have passwords like this, and then I can run this and the value is inserted. We'll quickly add some more values in this table so we can use it later. Just paste it, and when you are entering multiple values, you don't have to say value again and again. You can just separate it by comma, then put a semicolon in the end. If view all rows and all the data is inserted. Okay, I forgot to run the last one. Paste it again and view all rows, and we have all the entries we inserted. Now let's say I want to change my password. So it does not make sense to like create another entry with the same username but different password, right? So I will have to update this table called users. I want to set the password maybe to this, where the username is this one. Then execute it and it's done. The password is changed, right? So now we have seen how we can change the data in our table. Now let's say I want to change the structure of my table itself. I want to add another column. So I can say alter this table called users and add another column to this called year, which will store the year of birth. Year is in type integer. Execute this, our new column is added. View all rows, and this is our new column over here. I can also change the constraints of these columns. So my username and password are in text right now. I want to change this to varchar. So I will change this table users, alter this column in it called username, and change its type to varchar 25. So username cannot be more than 25 characters now. Execute, view all rows, and it's altered. Now I will quickly enter some details in this. You can use update and then set to fill this data, but I will quickly just add something in here. You can double click on the cell and start typing and then click enter to save it. After making these changes, you can just go to the top and click on save data changes over here to enter these values. Next, we have querying data from the tables. So how can we fetch this data we have entered over here? We can go here and go to select all rows to see the data, but the query for doing that is select. So select all the columns from this table called users. So it will show you all the columns here. Asterisk is a universal indicator, it symbolizes everything. Now let's say I only want to see the username and password. So I will say select only the username and password from this column, from this table called users. So I will get only the username and password. I can also put a constraint on the columns. So select all the entries from users, but only where the year is, let's say, greater than 1990. So these are the people who were born after 1990. Now I want to check the people who have not yet entered their year on my website. So where year is null, it's empty, right? So I will execute it, and these two people have not yet updated their year of birth in my database. Now I can also order these entries in a particular order. So select all from users. So this is users, but I want to order it in alphabetical order according to the username. So order it by username, and it's ascending by default. So select all from users and order it by username. So it's in ascending order. Arya, Amit, Ananya, Mohit, like in that order. I can also reverse it by saying descending. So by username in descending order. I can order it by year, again in increasing order of year, and null is at the end, or in decreasing order by year. So it's reversed. I can also, let's say I want to check the people who use Gmail as their primary email. So select all from users where the username is like a particular string. You are not checking for exact equality, but it should be similar to this. So there can be anything at the start of the username, which is denoted by a modulo symbol. So anything, and it should end with gmail.com. So this is how the username should be. And I have all the people who use Gmail. I can also like not put .com and put another modulo here. Like there should be anything at the start, then Gmail, then anything after that. So it will give me the same set of entries. I can also get entries based on the year. So select all where the year is less than 1980, or where the year is greater than 2000. We can also use and or in our queries. Okay, there is no one with year less than 1980. I will change it to 1990, and these are the people born in that period. Now I can switch this up to people born between 1990 and 2000. So I will say where year is between 1990 and 2000, and then execute it. Okay, year is not required. Where year between 1990 and 2000. So these are the people born between 1990 and 2000. Now I want to delete this column called year because I'm done with it. The purpose is done. I showed you how to arrange it. So I will alter my table users and drop this column called year. Execute it, and it's gone. You can see that column is deleted. Next important thing is joining tables. So let's say I have two tables. One stores the details of users and the other stores the details of orders made by users. But I'm not again storing their username and password and then adding another column for orders in that. These are two different tables. I'm only storing the ID of the user who placed the order and the order ID. So now I want to link it to check which user has placed which order. So first I will create a table for orders, create a table called orders where we have the order ID and the user ID and amount. I will paste it here, paste it and execute. So I will just refresh this. I have my orders table here. I will add some data into this, copy, paste and execute. So this is my orders table. We have the order ID, the user ID and the amount of the order. Now I don't want this user ID to show up. I instead want pgadmin to fetch the username of the person with this user ID and then show me the username and order ID. So I will join these two tables. Join is used to combine rows from two or more tables based on a related column between them, which is the user ID. So I will select the username and the order ID from this joined table. The tables are orders and users. So joining these two tables on which column? On the user ID column from the orders table. So orders dot user ID and match this with ID from the users table. Run it. Right. So from orders, join users on this. Okay, the space is not required. Right. So select username and order ID from the join of these two tables on the user ID. So this is our joined table. This does not mean that there have been any changes in the original two tables or they have been merged or something. The two tables are as they are. This is just a this is just the query is executed and you are shown the joined table. It has not been saved anywhere or anything. And the order of this does not matter. You can like say users and orders in the other other way around. So from users and join it to orders. But then this also changes. So now you have to mention users.id over here and it will give you the same thing. Now we will go with deleting data. So how do you delete data from this table? Now this is my orders table. Let's say I have completed a order. I have completed this order with an order ID of 23. So I can say delete from orders where the order ID is equal to 23 and I will execute it. Query return, I will check it and order ID 23 is gone from here. Now let's say I have a change in my business plan. I no longer do e-commerce. I'm creating a blog page, right? So I don't want the orders table. So I will drop this table called orders. Just a simple three-word statement and our entire table will be gone. The orders table is deleted. You cannot see it in the object explorer here, right? I've deleted that table. Now we saw the basics of pgadmin, how to use it and everything. But how do I integrate this in my website? So I have made this small web page in Node.js, JavaScript. I will just walk through the code with you. So this is the web page for the demo. You can register and log in. And this is the code over here. So how exactly do you integrate pgadmin with your Node.js web page? You will have to first initialize npm, install npm and then initialize it. So you will initialize npm. After that you will have to install pg, which is a package for postgres. So npm I pg, and after this you will import it in your code file by saying import pg from this package called pg. Then you have to initialize a object. You can name it anything, but by convention it is generally named db, where you will put up all the values to connect it to your database. So the user is postgres generally. and then the host, the name of the database, which was we named it technique, the password whichever you set for the server, and the port is 5432 by default. So you initialize this object and then you connect to it by saying db.connect. After this, I have added the routes. So I will go to the web page. I will say register. I will Now I will just register a random email over here with some made up password. I'll click on register and it will log me in. If I go to the database and see in now, if I refresh it, you will see the email I just entered at the end of the table. We have hello@mail.com and the password I just entered. If I run through the code for this, we have app.post register. So when this route is hit, I'm storing the username and password from the body of the form which was entered by the user, then running await db.query. So db.query is used to pass in any query for the database. You need to use await because it takes some time to run that query and get the result, as we have seen when we were using the query tool. It's not direct initialization, right? You can't just say a equal to 5, right? It's not like that. So we need to put await, and because we are putting await, the function should be asynchronous. So select all from users where the username is this. We can't directly put in username over here because it's a string. It won't be considered as a variable. So you have to put a placeholder $1 and then put the variable in a square bracket. Now check the rows of this result. If there is any row, then the length will be greater than 0, right? So if it's already there, then send a message that username already exists, try logging in, or else insert this username and password into our users table. Now I have already registered this mail, right? What if I try registering it again? I will go here and I will put it again and register. So it will say this is already existing. You have to try logging in. So I will go and log in. If I enter a wrong password, the password is incorrect. Try again. I will go with the right password this time and then it should log me in. So the query for the login part is right here. Again, you get the username and password from the body of the form. Then you check if it's there in the users table. If it's there, then match the password entered by the user and the stored password from the table. If it's matching, go to the next page, login page. And if it's not, then say the password is incorrect, try again. And if the length of the rows is 0, then you say user not found and direct the user to login. So that's it from my side. Thank you for joining. If you need any more help with the syntax or documentation, there are these two websites you can always refer to, and ChatGPT is always there to help you out. Thank you for joining. I hope the session was informative.